Hello 10th graders, this is me teacher Ala Umran. Today I'm going to go on and to complete what we've started with previously when we talked about relative clauses. We said and we described we defined what is a relative clause, and I told you that a relative clause is like a sentence which gives information about a noun. It is like a sentence which gives information about a noun. We said that a relative clause like بالعربي جمل الوصل اللي هي بتعرف الاسم. So, look at the example here. That is the woman who bought my house. Where is the relative clause? Yeah, where is the relative clause? It is who bought my house. هاي الجملة is a relative clause. طيب ليش اسمها relative clause? Because it includes a relative pronoun. فيها ضمير وصل. Where is the relative pronoun here? It is who. We said that we have different relative pronouns such as who, which, that, where, when, why. And each one of these is used for different purpose. We use who to talk about human beings. We use which to talk about things and animals. We use where to talk about places, when for time, and why to talk about reasons, and whose to talk about position. But here we have the relative pronoun who. Okay, and this relative clause هي جملة describes the noun. Where is the noun? Yes, woman is the noun. So woman is the noun, and who bought my house is the relative clause which describes the noun. Okay. As I told you before, the relative pronouns who, which, whose. Today we're going to talk about a more specific topic, which is object vs subject relative pronouns. We said that we have different relative pronouns. شو هم relative pronouns؟ شو أسماء الوصل بالإنجليش؟ Who, which, that, where, when, etc. Today we're going to talk about two types, which are object or subject. So relative pronouns, الwho, والwhich, with that can be two types. Subject or object relative pronoun. إذا بصنفهم into subject or object. What do we mean by each? Look at the example which is given here. This is the man who fixed my car. Where is the relative pronoun? The relative pronoun here is وينه ضمير الوصل who. طيب who here? Why who? Because we are talking about the man. The man is a human, insan, so we use who, not which. Okay, the second example. This is the book which I read yesterday. Where is the relative pronoun? It is which. طيب, why which? Because we are talking about the book. The book is a thing, شيء. So we use which with it. The first example, this is the man who fixed my car. This is subject relative pronoun. Why? How do you know that this is subject relative pronoun? Let's see. What do you have after the relative pronoun who? نطلع شو في عنا وراه. عنا وراه fixed. Fixed is a verb, right? So when we have a verb, بالعادة إحنا شو جملتنا مكونة؟ Subject and verb, right? Subject verb. كل جمل الإنجليش فيهم subject verb. So if we have a verb after the relative pronoun, we call the relative pronoun subject. Subject, relative pronoun. So again, to know that whether this is subject, relative pronoun or object, كيف بدي أميز إنه subject ولا object? I look after it. بطلع ورا. If we have a verb, the relative pronoun is subject. But if we have after the relative pronoun, we have subject. بطلع وراه. إذا عندي subject, the relative pronoun is object. ليش؟ لأنه ما بصير subject ورا بعض. Again, relative pronouns could be subject or object. كيف بدي أميز إنه هذا subject ولا object? I look after it. بطلع وراه. If it is followed by a verb, بعرف إنه قبل الverb دايما شو بكون عندي subject, because subject verb. I look after it. If we have subject, إذا عندي I, you, ضمير, he, she, اسم, whatever. إذا عندي subject, بعرف إنه relative pronoun here is object. ليش؟ يعني which here, which I read, which here is object. ليش مش subject؟ لأنه ما بصير subject. بطلع وراها عندي subject. بصير هي تكون subject? No, it's an object relative pronouns. تمام. So relative pronouns could be subject or object. How would we know؟ كيف بميز؟ بتطلع وراهم. If they are followed by a verb it's subject. If it's followed by a subject شو بتكون؟ object. Look at this example. Selma, who visited me last year, is coming again. Where is the relative pronoun? وين ضمير الوصل؟ who. So who here is it subject or object? خلينا نشوف. We look after it. What do we have after who? We have visited. Visited is a verb. So بما إنها verb, so who is subject relative pronoun. ليش؟ لأنه وراها verb. Let's check the following example. I watched the movie which you told me about. Where is the relative pronoun? Which. خلينا نشوف شو وراه. Which you. So after the relative pronoun here we have you. You is subject. So which. What is which? It's object relative pronoun. إذا كيف حددت إنها object؟ بتطلع وراها. إذا وراها subject بتكون هي شو؟ object relative pronoun. You is a subject. So شو بتكون which؟ object relative pronoun. ليش؟ تذكروا إنه ما بصير subjectين ورا بعض. تمام؟ Let's see. As we said before that object relative pronouns كيف بميزوا؟ بتطلع وراه. إذا وراه subject بكون object. Here we have a very important information you need to know. That when we have object relative pronoun بعد ما أنا بتطلع بحدده subject ولا object. If it is object I can omit it. شو يعني omit؟ يعني delete, remove. I can omit it from the sentence. بقدر أحذفه، بقدر أشيله من الجملة and the sentence will not change. The meaning will not change. Look at the example here. I watched the movie which you told me about. As we said before that which object ولا subject? Yes, it's object. I can omit it. بقدر أحذفها. تعالوا نحذفها ونشوف الجملة. I watched the movie you told me about. شوفوا حذفنا which here. Does the meaning change؟ تغير معي المعنى. I watched the movie you told me about. غير معي؟ No, it's the same. So, if we have object relative pronoun, I can delete it from the sentence. I can move it with no change in the meaning. So again, أنو بقدر أحذفه السبجكت ولا الأوبجكت؟ The object relative pronoun بقدر أحذفه من الجملة and the meaning will not change. Let's see the following example. Subject relative pronouns cannot be omitted. يعني بتطلع إذا إنه subject I can't omit it. ما بقدر remove it. I can delete it. ما بقدر أحذفه. Look at the example. Selma who visited. So who subject ولا object? I look after it. شو وراها verb. So it is subject relative pronoun. Subject relative pronoun cannot be omitted. خلينا نشوف الexample. Selma visited me last year is coming again. Look at the sentence. Do you think it's a correct sentence? Actually, grammatically speaking, no, it's not a correct sentence. ليش؟ لأني حذفت relative pronoun والrelative pronoun هون شو كان نوعه؟ subject relative pronoun. So subject relative pronouns cannot be omitted. ما بقدر أحذفهم. غلط أحكي إنه سلمى وأحذف هو. The subject relative pronoun.